Hello everyone, this is the third video in a series about camping fears, specifically solo camping fears. The first video was about camping in bear country. The second video was about fears of crazy people or serial killers or that kind of thing. This video will address another common solo camping fear, and that is having a medical problem when you're out on the road or having a car issue when you're out on the road. I found that as I was writing up an outline on both of those topics, they went together very well, and a lot of what you can say about one of those things can also apply to the other. I have 7 points I wanted to touch on regarding these topics, and the first is to know your limits. And again, this applies to both yourself physically, medically, and also to your vehicle. So let's talk about the medical side of it first, the physical side of it first. Basically, don't bite off more than you can chew. And this means if you're out going for a hike, and you aren't in the best shape in the world, maybe don't start off with a 20-mile hike. If you are anticipating a certain trip, then be sure to train for that, be in good shape. Don't just go for the big, crazy, famous hike just because it's big and crazy and famous in a national park, for example. You definitely need to match your goal with your current physical ability. And again, that goes for the car too. If you have a Honda Civic, don't try to go off-roading in it. And just like physically you want to be in shape, mechanically with your car you want to make sure it's well maintained, make sure you're up to date on routine maintenance, and your tires are in good shape and your fluid levels are where they need to be, and that kind of thing. The second point of 7 that I wanted to talk about is to make a copy of your itinerary and give that to people, and also check in with them so that if you don't check in with them and they need to send out a rescue party, they know your last location. The third point I wanted to say is to have a plan. So what's your plan if something bad does happen? So for example, if you're out hiking on a day hike and you break your ankle, what are you going to do in that case? I think that's a good kind of thing to plan for. For me, in the past, the plan has always been to basically hunker down and just wait for someone else to come along. And in order for that to work, you need to have enough equipment with you, enough food and water too, to be able to make that work. And I'll talk a little bit more about my emergency gear in the next point here. But yeah, have a plan so that if something bad happens, that's not the first time you're thinking about it. I think that being prepared and just waiting for someone else to come along can be a good solution. But in addition to that, I now have a satellite communicator. I have a Garmin InReach Mini that I can use to call for help. And I will also talk about that more in a future point. But yeah, basically have a plan and have AAA, have roadside assistance, have a plan like that. And then also it's a good idea to have the information for an off-road vehicle recovery service and to have the money set aside for one of those. It can be several $100s or even, 4 figures to rescue your vehicle, depending on where you are, what kind of vehicle you are. There's a YouTube channel that's pretty entertaining called Matt's Off-Road Recovery, I think that's what it's called. And basically he's a guy in southern Utah who goes and gets people out of jams when they're stuck in mud or in snow or in sand. Hopefully you won't need to use a service like that, but they are good to know about and to have on speed dial when you do need them. And so with the vehicle, my plan has long been to basically just, if I do have a problem that I can't fix, to wait for someone else to come along, make sure I have enough food and water and everything in the meantime. And then when someone does come along, maybe they can help me. And if not, then at least they can either relay a message to the outside world, or they can give me a ride back to civilization where I can coordinate a rescue of my vehicle. And that brings us to point number 4, have the right emergency tools and knowledge. For hiking, for me, this involves a little emergency kit. I've made a video about this before, about my hiking emergency kit. And actually I have it in my bag, so let me show it to you really quick. So in my backpack, I always have these 2 things. This is a splint that can be used to help a variety of bone injuries. I'll put a link to this in the description. And then this is the emergency kit. I have the emergency pouch. And again, I've made a video about this, so I won't go through everything. But there's a trash bag, a poncho, an emergency blanket, and fire starting materials, and a light, and a little saw, an extra pair of socks. Various things that you might need. Water purification tablets. And then as far as an emergency kit for my car, I have all sorts of medical supplies. I think I've made a video about that, about my car first aid kit. But then also I have tools, I have recovery tools, like for self-recovery, things like traction mats. I have a cheap pair of things I can stick under my tires in case I get stuck in snow or sand or mud. I have a shovel, I have a tow strap, I have battery jumper cables, I have an axe and a saw in case I find a road blocked by a tree. They're pretty small. Given enough time, I could work my way through a tree with those things. I have a little fire extinguisher, and then there's everything relating to tires. So I have a little tire patch repair kit. I have a full-size spare tire. I have a little air compressor. I have a couple fix-a-flats. All of those, I think that that tire issues are probably the most common issues on the road, especially when you're off the beaten path a little bit. So having a full suite of products to help you there will really help you out in the long run. And again, I think that having enough food and water is a big part of this. For my car, I have probably a week's worth of food and water in there at any given time. So I could hold out for a while if I needed to stay put and wait for someone to find me. And then on basically any hike, I have significantly more water than what I would need on that hike, just so that if I do need it, or if I come across someone else who might need it. That's another big thing. Point number 5 that I wanted to make is that if you're really worried about being alone, you can stick around other people. You can stay where there are other hikers, or it's a popular area to hang out or to drive, to hike, whatever it may be. To a certain extent, when hiking at least, there is safety in numbers. And then also you can stay where there is phone service. If you're worried about something happening to you and not being able to contact the outside world, there are lots of places that are beautiful and interesting and worth visiting that aren't quite as deep into the mountains or into the desert, and you will still have good phone reception out there. And then the 6th thing I wanted to talk about is getting a satellite communicator of some sort. Now these come in a few different categories with different capabilities and varying levels of ease of use and ability to contact the outside world. I'd say that the base one is a PLB, or personal locator beacon. This is basically a little electronic box the size of a couple candy bars that has an antenna on it and has an SOS button on it. If you're out in the wilderness and you can't contact the outside world and you break your ankle, break your leg, something happens, you pull out the antenna and press the SOS button, and this will alert the authorities of your position and someone will come rescue you. This is for serious rescue needs. This isn't for, oh, I have a flat tire, unless of course, I guess it is a life-threatening situation. But there is no two-way communication with this kind of thing. But there's also no monthly fee. You just buy the unit itself, which is around a few $100s, and it's just a one-time fee. You carry it with you, but it is a good option if you want something cheap that'll work in emergency situations. The next level up from that is the two-way satellite communicator. The company Spot made these popular and famous, and these have varying degrees of capabilities. So I think the basic Spot will track your position if you have that turned on, and then you can also send an SOS message. But they do have other units that have true two-way communication with the outside world, and so you can send a text message to someone, for example. Some of them have preset messages, others have keyboards on them. You can type out a message on the keyboard. Others link up with your phone, so you can type out the message on your phone. Lots of different options here. The one that I have is the Garmin InReach Mini. This thing is very small, very light, weighs a few ounces. I carry it with me everywhere. Whenever I'm out hiking or climbing or fishing or driving, camping, whatever, it's always with me because it is so small, and the battery in it lasts, weeks, maybe even months if you don't turn it on and use it. This particular one that I have was $350, and I think I'm on the $12 a month plan, which gives me like 10 text messages a month to use or something like that. But then you can also have preset messages that don't cost any extra. So for example, I have a preset message that says, here's where I am right now. And then there's a link to a map with my coordinates and location on it. And so I send that out to my parents and to my wife whenever I'm out camping, when I get to a campsite for the night. I can whip that out, turn it on, scroll down to my preset message, and then press that button and it gets sent out. You can type out your own message with it. There's like a little keyboard that you can scroll through. It takes a long time, but you can send a customized text message to someone. And it is true two-way communication. You can send a message to them, they can send one to you. And then also there is that SOS button that you can just hit and emergency people will come and rescue you. I believe you can also send them messages to tell them what's wrong with you and maybe more information to help them find you. So I'm really happy to have it. I think it's a good thing to have. And then the next level up from the two-way satellite communicators is a true satellite phone. These are even more expensive for the initial purchase of the hardware, and then they are more expensive also for the monthly fee. Basically the cheapest ones I found are $30, $40 a month and up. I think at this point you can get a satellite phone for around $400, which is a lot cheaper than they used to be, but the monthly service is still quite pricey. But with those, you do have true ability to call someone. And so if that's the kind of thing that's worth it to you, then I think it can be a good option. And then the last point I wanted to address is a kind of a separate fear that someone had when I asked them about what their solo camping fears were, and they said getting lost with no GPS. Now getting lost with no GPS, that would be difficult. Like if you have your phone, you have a GPS. Maybe the question that the person was asking was if they have no cell service and so the maps don't work. That's something that I know a lot of people are worried about. But it's a very easily solved problem. There are two apps you should be aware of. One is called Gaia GPS, and this is the one that I use for back roads travel in my vehicle and also for backcountry hiking. And so basically you can download offline hiking maps and download offline maps for smaller roads that might not be covered as well on other maps. It is a paid service. It's like $30 or $40 a year, I think, depending on what level you get. Definitely worth it. I've been a paying customer for years and years, and it's definitely worth it for me. It might not be for you, but it is a really good app to have, and it can also show you where the public land boundaries are. BLM land, national forest land, that kind of thing. Very helpful for finding campsites on your own. But yeah, you download these maps to your phone so that if you are out of phone range, if you don't have service, then you'll still be able to navigate with those maps. And the second app I wanted to talk about is for offline turn-by-turn navigation. So navigation in your vehicle when you don't have phone service. That app is called Here We Go, and it's free. And for the US, you can download each state offline. So for me, I live in Idaho. I go to Utah and Arizona and Wyoming a lot. So I have all of those states downloaded for offline use. I have all those maps for those states. And basically it works like Google Maps. It'll tell you where to turn, how long until the next turn, and all that information. It's a really good app. I really like it, and it's free. And if you're outside of the US, I don't know what the breakdown is, if it's state, province, or county or whatever, but they have maps for most countries out there, I believe, and so whatever country you're in, I'm sure you can find that app to be helpful. And one more thing I wanted to add at the end here for those of us who use our phones as our primary navigation aids. Always have backup power. If you're out hiking, have a little battery bank with the USB cable so that if your phone is running low, you can make it back to the car all right. And I think that's it. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Leave a comment below so you can let me know if you have other ideas or things that I left out. And also, if you don't have anything to add, be sure to go down and read the comments. On videos like this, I do get a lot of helpful comments from other people about the things that I maybe wasn't clear on or did leave out. So Hope this video was helpful. Hope it gives you a little bit more confidence with regards to going out and hiking and camping on your own. It is something that can be done relatively safely. It's always safer to go with more people, but if you can't or don't want to do that, then there are ways to at least make it, if not 100% foolproof safe, at least make it safer. So thanks again, and I'll see you guys in the next video.